Imagine a critical pressure valve suddenly breaks on a deep-sea oil rig.
Oh, man.
Right. You're miles out in the ocean. A storm has, knocked out your internet connection.
Yeah.
Time is absolutely running out. And the only person who actually knows the quirks of this specific valve system, well, they retired like 3 years ago.
Which is a terrifying but honestly super common scenario in heavy industry.
Exactly. And if you look at traditional corporate knowledge in that moment, you are doomed. I mean, you're thumbing through a greasy 1,000-page manual, just hoping for a miracle.
Or trying to search a PDF on a tiny offline tablet.
Right. But today, we are looking at a completely different scenario. We're diving into a new technology that allows that isolated worker to essentially put on a headset, access a localized 3D map of company knowledge, and literally interview the digital ghost of that retired engineer to save the rig.
It is a remarkable scenario, and it gets right to the core of what we're unpacking today. We're looking at how a massive bottleneck in human productivity, which is really just the inability to access the right knowledge at the right time, is fundamentally changing.
Yeah, and to figure this out, we've fed our own brains a stack of technical white papers from EON AI Ventures.
Out Irvine, California.
Yeah, Irvine. Plus their August 19th press release, this is from 2026, and a few detailed architectural schematics. They just unveiled something they're calling the EON TACIT Spatial Brain.
The spatial brain, yeah.
And the mission for this deep dive is to figure out how this system takes what is usually a frustrating two-dimensional hunt for files and turns it into a living, three-dimensional, navigable environment. So, okay, let's unpack this. If I think about a traditional corporate database, it's essentially a messy attic.
Oh, absolutely. Just boxes everywhere.
Right, you're opening boxes, digging through old folders, hoping you stumble on the right document. But from what I'm seeing, this spatial brain technology is like putting on a pair of smart glasses when you walk into that attic. Suddenly, it just instantly highlights exactly who knows what and where that knowledge actually came from.
Yeah, and that shift from 2 dimensions to 3 is the critical piece to understand first. I mean, for decades, organizations have tried to take, say, 30 years of a senior engineer's highly nuanced expertise and compress it down into a flat, bulleted text document.
Right.
Or worse, a spreadsheet. And whenever you compress human intelligence like that, you strip away the context. You lose the tone of voice, you lose the reasoning behind the decisions.
The actual human element.
Exactly. The goal of this spatial brain technology is to stop flattening human experience. It's about capturing knowledge with its human context and evidence completely intact.
Okay, that sounds great in a press release, but I want to look at the actual mechanics here. Because before you can navigate a 3D brain, you have to build it. How does the knowledge actually get from a human into this system?
Right, the input phase.
Yeah, because if I think about a grumpy senior engineer who has been in a company for 30 years, they do not have the time or, frankly, the patience to sit down and manually type out everything they know into a new database.
No, of course not.
If getting the knowledge into the system is a massive administrative burden, the whole thing just falls apart before it begins.
And that is the exact friction point that has killed almost every previous knowledge management system. You just can't ask an expert to become a data entry clerk. So EON AI approaches this using what they call a Pick My Brain module.
Pick my brain.
Yeah, it relies heavily on conversational AI and structured interviews rather than manual typing.
Okay, wait, I'm trying to visualize this. A conversational UI? So I'm just talking to the system.
Essentially, yes. But it's not just a blank recording where you ramble. The system acts as an active interviewer. It uses natural language processing to ask targeted, structured questions based on your role and your recent projects.
Oh, interesting.
So if the engineer says, we always calibrate this valve to 40 psi, the system is designed to immediately prompt a follow-up. It'll ask, why 40 psi? What happens if it hits 45?
So it pushes back.
Exactly. It uses large language models to spot gaps in the explanation in real time and basically pull the deeper why out of the expert.
Wait, if I sit down for a series of these structured interviews and the system is, recording my voice, transcribing my logic, logging my specific citations, is the company basically creating a digital clone of my professional expertise?
Well, it's creating what the architecture refers to as an expert brain.
An expert brain.
It captures your specific perspective, backed by your audio and your documents.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, yes, it's a digital representation of your specific professional utility.
Wow, we are definitely going to have to circle back to the implications of that later, because that's huge. But for now, let's look at the bigger picture. An organization isn't just one expert. Let's say I'm trying to solve a really complex supply chain problem, right?
Sure.
If I consult 5 different senior logistics directors, I'm going to get 5 entirely different, highly opinionated takes on how to solve it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Right. So if we just dump all of those expert brains into one database, doesn't it just become a giant, confusing soup of contradictory opinions?
Well, what's fascinating here is that it only becomes a soup if this system attempts to average them out, which, by the way, is exactly what standard search algorithms tend to do.
They try to find the consensus.
Right, they smooth over the rough edges to give you one answer. But EON TACIT uses a process called brain fusion to combine these individual profiles into a collective brain. And the underlying technology here is really crucial. They aren't just mashing text files together. They are using advanced vector database mapping.
Okay, break down that vector mapping for me. How does that stop the soup of opinions from just becoming unreadable garbage?
Think of it like how a music producer layers different vocal tracks in a studio.
Okay.
A bad producer might auto-tune 5 different singers into one single robotic artificial voice.
Right.
You lose all the nuance. But a good producer layers the tracks so you can hear the distinct harmonies of every individual singer coming together to form a complex chord.
Yeah.
The vector database allows the AI to map the relationships between what these 5 experts are saying without overwriting them.
Oh, I see.
It cross-references their audio transcripts and source documents to find the overlaps, but it explicitly preserves the contradictions. By retaining the exact source, like literally who said what, it preserves the nuances and different perspectives.
That makes a lot of sense. So if 2 experts completely disagree on the safety limits of a new chemical compound, the system doesn't just split the difference and give me a dangerous middle ground.
Far from it. It explicitly highlights the divergence. It allows users to weigh the evidence rather than just accepting a flattened consensus. And once this passes through internal governance and quality checks, this fused knowledge scales up into what they call the organization brain.
Which brings up an immediate logistical problem. We've got this massive organization brain now, right?
Right.
We've retained all the nuances, all the debates, all the primary sources. If I'm a new hire and I need an answer to a simple question, how do I not immediately drown in information overload?
Yeah, that's the risk.
Having access to every nuanced debate in company history sounds like a fast track to a panic attack when you're just trying to find a standard operating procedure.
That is exactly where the 3D interface, the spatial brain itself, comes into play. Because you're right, if you present that much complex vectorized data in a standard list of blue search links on a 2D screen, it's completely useless. The human brain just can't process it.
Yeah, it's too much.
Instead, EON AI designed a visual environment built around 3 synchronized windows.
Yeah, I saw those schematics. It looked a bit like a flight simulator for data.
That's a great way to put it. It's a highly structural way of navigating.
Right.
First, you have a 3D map.
Okay.
You can literally see people, topics, physical assets, past decisions, and evidence clustered together in space.
In a 3D space.
Yes. You can zoom out to a 10,000-foot view of the entire organization's knowledge graph, or you can zoom all the way down to a specific incident report on a factory floor, and you maintain your spatial awareness the entire time. You always know where you are relative to the rest of the information.
Okay, that visual context is definitely helpful. But honestly, if I'm in a rush, I don't want to play a video game to find an answer. I just want to ask a question.
Which is why the second synchronized window is a conversational workspace. You can just ask natural language questions, just like you would to any chatbot.
Right.
But the magic happens in the interaction between that chat space and the third window, which is the evidence pane. EON TACIT's core philosophy here is navigate, ask, prove.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. It's that proof part that caught my eye in the white papers. Because if you use a standard consumer-level AI chatbot today, confident hallucination is a massive problem.
Oh, huge.
Right. It will give you a beautiful, grammatically perfect answer that is entirely fabricated. And if I'm, say, designing a load-bearing bridge, I can't just trust a magical text box.
And you absolutely shouldn't. That's what the evidence pane solves. When the system gives you an answer in the conversational window, it doesn't just demand your blind trust. It provides the receipts.
Okay, what do you mean by receipts?
The evidence pane actively links you back to the permitted interview excerpts. It surfaces the actual audio snippet of the expert speaking. It pulls up the specific highlighted paragraph in the PDF manual.
Oh, wow. So if you're the kind of person who needs to see the primary source before you believe a claim, this design is exactly what you've been waiting for.
Exactly.
I mean, it essentially hands you a digitized detective's corkboard. Like with the red string, it says, here's our conclusion, and here's the audio file, the safety manual, and the historical data we used to get there. You get to inspect the origin of the knowledge yourself.
Yeah, it actively shifts the user's role. You're no longer just a passive consumer of a search result. It empowers you to be an active, critical thinker. By exposing the reasoning and the primary sources, it encourages the user to verify the data, weigh the evidence, and understand the deeper context.
I see how that works if I ask a perfect, highly specific question. But let's look at human nature.
Okay.
People are incredibly lazy when they type into search bars. If I type in a really vague query like, what's the protocol for the bridge? How does the system not just confidently guess and send me down a rabbit hole of irrelevant information?
Dealing with ambiguity is honestly one of the hardest challenges in AI.
Yeah.
EON tackles this with a feature they call the clarification pop-on.
Clarification pop-on.
Right. Instead of the system attempting to confidently guess your intent and fetching a bunch of random documents, it pauses. It prevents confident guessing entirely.
Wait, it actually interrupts the search.
Yes, but in a non-disruptive way. Without ripping you out of your current visual location in the 3D map, a contextual pop-on appears. It essentially acts as a semantic toll booth.
A semantic toll booth. I like that.
Right. It might say, I see you're asking about a bridge. Based on your department, do you mean the structural engineering term? Or are you referring to the network protocol for our IT servers?
Oh, that alone would save thousands of hours of wasted research time across a massive corporation. It just forces the user to be precise before the heavy lifting even begins.
It does. And it can also surface dictionary definitions, alternative interpretations of your query, and the trust status of those topics, allowing you to really refine your search before the system maps out the answer.
Okay, you just mentioned trust status, which is something I want to dig into. The white papers detail this whole visual language the system uses. And if I look at the mechanics of this, I think it's one of the most powerful safeguards they've built. They explicitly separate what a piece of information means from how much we should trust it.
Exactly. How did you interpret that separation when you were reviewing the schematics?
Well, think about a standard social media feed. Everything looks exactly the same, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
A peer-reviewed scientific paper is formatted with the exact same font, the same image layout, and the same visual weight as a completely fabricated rumor posted by a bot. The interface itself offers zero visual cues about reliability.
Not at all?
But EON TACIT's visual language color codes and shapes the data in the 3D environment, so you are visually protected from misinformation. Like, a popular rumor inside the company cannot physically look the same as a verified, peer-reviewed procedure.
That is a highly accurate way to frame it. The interface uses distinct controls to represent the underlying semantic knowledge graph. So, for example, when they talk about brain lobes,
Brain lobes, yeah, I saw that term.
they aren't just talking about a UI feature. The AI acts like a semantic librarian. It doesn't just look for keywords. It maps the relationships between concepts, building a literal graph of data that it categorizes and visualizes as these distinct lobes, showing you what the knowledge is fundamentally about.
Okay, so the lobes are essentially the categories. What about the brain lens?
The brain lens is a focus mechanism. As you navigate this massive 3D knowledge graph, the lens enlarges the specific nodes and connections that are most important to your current task, effectively pushing the irrelevant noise into the background.
Gotcha.
Then there's the brain slice, which is a hard governance feature. It acts as a security filter, ensuring you only see the authorized subset of the knowledge graph that your specific clearance level permits.
But where does the actual trust verification come in? Like, how do I know if the document I'm looking at hasn't been completely obsolete for 5 years?
That is handled by brain signals and brain trails.
Okay.
Brain signals are visible, glowing indicators on the nodes themselves. They instantly tell you the evidence level, the review status by human managers, and the freshness of the information. So if a safety protocol hasn't been updated since, say, 2018, its visual signal will physically flag it as stale.
Oh, that's brilliant. And the brain trails.
Brain trails visualize the connective tissue. They show you the causal relationships, the timelines, and exactly where a claim originated from. So barrier and source relationships are literally drawn out for you.
Which gives us that fully inspectable reasoning system. We aren't just blindly trusting a black box. We can literally see the trail of logic, the freshness of the data, and the primary sources it was built on.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, in an era of serious information overload, having visible brain signals for freshness and evidence ensures that the knowledge remains a reliable, living asset, not just some stagnant artifact. It demands transparency from the data.
Yeah, But I want to take this out of the comfortable theoretical office environment, though.
Okay, let's do it.
It's one thing to have a beautiful 3D map when you are sitting at a desk with fiber optic internet and a massive monitor. But the press release specifically highlighted applications for heavy industry, energy, and defense. How does this actually work in the real world, where operations are dirty, disconnected, and dangerous?
This is where EON AI transitions from a neat software tool into an operational lifeline. They break this down into two distinct modes for the physical world.
Okay.
The first is for the command center. They call it the situation room.
How does the Situation Room differ from the standard 3D interface?
It's a highly focused, proactive operational mode within the spatial brain.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a competitor in your industry just had a massive chemical spill. The situation room can pull known hazard categories, recent industry incidents, and risk patterns, and overlay them onto your company's knowledge graph. It proactively hunts for gaps in your own safety procedures.
Wow. Okay.
It tells the system, hey, based on what just happened in the industry, we need to dig deeper into our own chemical storage protocols during our next round of expert interviews.
So it's not just passively waiting for a user to ask a question, it's actively hunting for vulnerabilities in the company's knowledge.
Correct. And once it gathers and verifies that new safety knowledge, it pushes it through an approval gate, returning it to the organization as controlled draft material. That's the command center side. But then we have to address the boots on the ground.
Right. Let's go back to that vivid scenario from the beginning. The worker on the deep sea oil rig.
Yeah.
The broken valve, the storm, zero internet access. All of this beautiful 3D mapping and real-time cloud processing means literally nothing if they can't connect to the server.
Which is why EON developed the field vision architecture. They understand that critical, governed knowledge has to extend into environments that are remote, restricted, or entirely offline.
So how do they do it?
An organization can take a highly specific, approved subset of their organization brain, say just the mechanical engineering schematics and expert audio for that specific type of oil rig, and they compress it. They pack it up into what they call a brain pack.
Brain pack. So it's a localized offline version of the knowledge graph.
Exactly. They deliver that brain pack directly to a field brain device, like a ruggedized headset or an industrial tablet that the worker actually has with them.
So what does this all mean? The worker on that rig can consult the company's top engineering experts offline. They can ask a question about the valve, hear the audio of the retired expert explaining exactly how to fix it without needing a single bar of Wi-Fi.
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
But wait, if I'm taking data offline, version control becomes a massive safety hazard. If I download a brain pack to my offline tablet and then 6 months go by, I might be referencing a safety threshold that HQ has already flagged as dangerous.
That is the most critical vulnerability of offline data, and EON addresses it with a system called the Trust Vault. The Trust Vault is really the unsung hero here.
What does it do?
It strictly manages permissions, the consent of the original experts, approval gates, and most importantly, the freshness of the data. The Trust Vault will not allow a worker to execute a critical procedure based on an expired or unverified brain pack. It governs what you can access offline.
That offline capability is incredible, but I do see a legal and operational risk here. If the field brain tells a worker to do something and it causes an explosion, who is at fault?
EON AI Ventures is explicitly clear about this boundary, and it's a boundary that protects both the worker and the organization. These field capabilities are purely advisory.
Advisory, okay.
Right. They are designed to safely bridge the gap between the collective wisdom at headquarters and the reality on the ground. But they do not replace formal operating procedures. They do not replace the readings from physical sensors on the machine, and they absolutely do not replace the responsible operational authority of the human being standing in front of the problem.
Right. It's an advanced advisor, not an autopilot.
Exactly.
It respects the historical knowledge of the company without overriding the real-time judgment of the operator.
Precisely. It keeps human authority in the driver's seat where it belongs.
Okay, as we look at all these pieces together, let's trace this entire product path one more time, just to solidify how radical this really is.
Sure.
It doesn't start with a document, it starts with an individual. Through conversational UI and natural language processing, a person's expertise is captured into an expert brain.
Yep.
Then, using advanced vector mapping, that acts like our music producer layering tracks, those individual brains are combined in brain fusion to create the collective brain. And once that data is verified and governed, it scales up to the full organization brain.
And remember, you aren't hunting through old folders to access it. You navigate it visually in 3D through the spatial brain interface. using those specific lobes, lenses, and trails to verify the trust and meaning of the data.
Yeah, navigate, ask, prove. And finally, when you have to leave the connected office and go into a dangerous offline environment, you securely pack that knowledge into a brain pack governed by the trust vault and take it with you in the field brain.
It really is an intuitive, visually rich journey of discovery, rather than a frustrating hunt for old files.
It completely transforms learning inside a company.
It really does. But, this raises an important question. If we look at the implications of this pipeline, it forces us to reconsider one of the most stubborn problems in modern business. I want to return to that question you asked earlier about creating a digital clone of professional expertise.
Oh, right. The idea that the structured interviews capture so much of your logic, your voice, and your context that you are basically leaving a piece of yourself behind.
Yes. For centuries, organizations have suffered from brain drain. When a legendary 30-year employee finally retires, or when a brilliant innovator is poached by a competitor, the physical person leaves the building, and traditionally, their knowledge just evaporated with them.
Gone.
But if an organization successfully deploys this spatial brain platform, their expert brain remains interactive. Their voice, their reasoning, their specific problem-solving models are permanently woven into the company's knowledge graph.
So the person is gone physically, but their expertise is still sitting there in the 3D map, ready to be questioned.
Exactly, which leaves us with a fascinating and somewhat surreal thought to mull over.
Yeah.
Will the next generation of engineers, doctors, and logistics managers find themselves routinely collaborating with and interviewing the highly articulate digital ghosts of past experts long after those individuals have packed up their desks and moved on?